Jolly Rancher Remix is the 2022 retheme of Hershey Park's Vekoma Boomerang. Most people will consider this an upgrade, as the ride received new music, lighting, and smell effects to enhance the experience. However, and I know this is a hot take, I think this ride became less re-rideable. Let me explain this review. Today, Hershey Park is one of the deepest coaster lineups in the world. There are 13 different roller coasters, including 2 different hypercoasters, arguably the best intimate accelerator coaster, a few strong looping coasters, and multiple wood coasters. Hershey seems to get a new coaster every few years now. But back in the early 1990s, that was not always the case for Hershey. The park hadn't added a new coaster since Super Duper Looper in 1977. The park wanted a new coaster for the 1991 season, but they did not have much space available at the time. This new ride would be, at the time, the park's 4th roller coaster. Hershey Park decided to add a Vekoma Boomerang named Sidewinder. It was Pennsylvania's first boomerang, but Vekoma had built 20 previously, including one nearby in Sea Serpent and Morey's Piers. As Hershey Park added bigger and newer coasters in the late 1990s and throughout the 2000s, Sidewinder's popularity dwindled. The ride was criticized for its unoriginal layout, as there are now 53 boomerangs across the globe, and rough ride experience that could lead to headbanging. Hershey Park made a key change in 2011 to improve guest comfort. The original Vekoma train with the over-the-shoulder restraints were replaced by a newer train with vest harnesses. This was a major upgrade. The new harnesses are certainly snug, but the wide bars on the side eliminated all headbanging, which is a major win. But an even bigger change happened in 2022. Hershey Park completely rethemed and rebranded the attraction as Jolly Rancher Remix. This is on the heels of Hershey Park adding more candy-themed attractions over the past few years, such as Candymonium and Reese's Cup Fusion. It only makes sense since that's the IP that's most unique to this candy-themed park. Sidewinder previously had a mundane paint scheme with white supports and brown-black track. Now the ride looks much better with its vibrant paint scheme. It has bright green track with pink, blue, and purple supports. The colors really pop during the day. And you also have that new Zamperla Nebula's Flat Ride and Mixed placed right below the Cobra Roll that adds even more energy to the area. By night, the ride has a club-like atmosphere with multicolored lighting and spotlights. The ride really is a spectacle now. The station continues this vibe and it feels like a dance club with the music and lighting. The one downside with this visual upgrade is that the ride no longer has any tie-in with the Western-inspired Pioneer Frontier. Hershey Park has never been a major theme park. It's more about the amusement rides, but most of the rides in this section at least had a Western-inspired name such as Sidewinder. However, this is a very minor issue for me because it's not like this area was as immersive as Frontierland to begin with. Remix upgraded more than just the ride's appearance. Remix also has a loud soundtrack booming throughout the area, and you'll also get blasted with scents of Jolly Ranchers. The ride features a unique tunnel that randomly fills with the smell of one of 5 different Jolly Ranchers. The randomization gives the attraction a little extra re-ride value. Now I know this flavor tunnel is a positive for 99.9% of guests, but for me, it's actually a negative. You may or may not know this already, but I despise candy. I'm not trying to be healthy or anything, I just genuinely hate the taste and smell. The latter can actually make me feel nauseous if it's too overpowering. I was worried it would be an issue on Remix. The scent isn't too overpowering, but it's definitely noticeable. It's tolerable from the midway, but it made me feel a bit queasy going through the tunnel on ride. When you're experiencing nearly 5 Gs, and for me what's an unpleasant odor, is a very bad recipe. So if you're a fellow candy hater like me, you may want to watch out for this ride. However, I'll try to keep that bias out of the review because the overall package is undoubtedly better, and I know that's an issue most people will not have. The ride's entrance used to be underneath the Cobra Roll, but it was moved behind the lift hills to accommodate Mixed. In Sidewinder's final years, it typically had one of the shortest waits at Hershey Park. The experience just wasn't as memorable as the park's other coasters, but the retheme made it a lot more popular. Looking at QTimes.com, Sidewinder averaged no more than a 10-minute wait during the 2021 season. Jolly Rancher Remixes averaged a 30 to 60-minute wait in 2022. Now, the average crowd level at Hershey Park has increased 20% from 2021 to 2022, but Remix's Q increase wasn't proportional. This ride saw a 3 to 6 fold increase, which shows how well received this upgrade is. If you want to avoid a long wait for this attraction, it is wise to head there early. This is especially true because it doesn't have as high of a capacity as the park's other coasters. Due to the shuttle nature of the Boomerang model, Remix can only run one train. It is a fairly long train at least. It's comprised of 7 cars, each seating 4 riders in 2 rows of 2, so the train can accommodate a max of 28 riders per cycle. The vest restraints are pretty quick to check, which helps keep dispatches steady at least. When you reach the station, you're free to choose any row, and I like the back best in these Boomerangs. It maximizes the first drop. I know some prefer the front and would argue they get a better backwards drop midway through the ride, but I think the forwards one packs more of a punch. You're dispatched backwards and then are pulled up the 117 foot or 36 meter tall lift hill. You get a great view overlooking the park, but the music is what really shines here. A catchy dance tune plays for the entire ascent, and it reaches a crescendo at the top. You then hear "Drop the Beat," and you're released a split second later. The initial drop on Boomerangs always gives me a tummy tickling sensation. It doesn't give airtime, but it does give a faint freefall sensation for me. I'm guessing it's because of the sudden release and constant drop angle. Since you go higher up in the back, that is why I prefer that row. You then rocket through the station and navigate 3 inversions in rapid fire succession. You have a Cobra roll followed by a vertical loop. The Cobra roll has good force in the ascent and descent. The elevated snaps in between are a bit jerky though. You got head banging with the old restraints, but it's nothing more than a nuisance with the vests. The valley in between inversions features that tunnel. This pass, you only see some lights. The flavor blast will occur on the return trip. Then you zip through a very forceful vertical loop. It's quite punchy, but it gets even better later, trust me. You then hit the second spike. The train really slams to a stop when it engages with the chain, so brace yourself for that. You're then pulled upwards up the equally as tall lift, and the music returns. Then you're released and fall backwards. Shortly thereafter, you'll hear a robotic voice exclaim what flavor you'll get. It's pretty hard to understand both on and off ride, so it's essentially a surprise. The drop doesn't have the same freefall effect for me going backwards, but it does build up good speed. The valley is forceful, and it does suddenly push you downwards, which can be a bit jarring and uncomfortable. You then rip through the vertical loop, this time with more speed and power. I believe this is where Boomerangs pull the reported 5.2 Gs, and it's insane. I usually gray out here. That's part of the reason the tunnel bit makes me feel woozy, especially because the Gs are still being applied. You'll pass through a dense fog scented with either grape, raspberry, watermelon, apple, or cherry. Again, I hate candy, so this was my nightmare. You then go through this Cobra roll reverse. The ascents and descents still give decent Gs, but they're not quite as intense as the forwards pass because you have less speed here. The transition in between inversions feels a bit rougher this time though. You then break through the station and slowly come to a stop, ending the experience. The ride only has 935 feet or 285 meters of track, so going both directions certainly helps give you a more satisfying ride experience. So what would I rate Jolly Rancher Remix? Objectively, I'm giving this coaster a 6 out of 10. This is now the best Boomerang in the United States. There are a few that are a bit smoother, such as the one at Maury's, but Remix is still quite tolerable with those newer generation trains free of headbanging. That's combined with the always forceful ride experience. What makes this Boomerang shine are those audio and visual effects. It gives this highly cloned coaster a unique aspect. From an on-ride perspective, I personally prefer how Sidewinder ran from 2011 through 2021. Again, Remix made me feel a bit nauseous from the candy scents. For that reason, combined with how deep Hershey's coaster lineup is, I'm not sure if I'll be re-riding this again anytime soon. I would still prioritize Hershey's other major coasters over this one, but Remix is worth checking out while you're there, especially if you haven't ridden it since the conversion. Again, for most people, these upgrades will make it the slam dunk best Boomerang in the United States. The only other Boomerang I've experienced with a complete experience like this one is Wallaby Holland's Speed of Sound. So those are my thoughts on Jolly Rancher Remix. what I believe will be the best boomerang for most people in the United States. What are your thoughts on this ride? Did the candy scent make you a little queasy like me? Or is that just a me thing? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.